Hello and welcome back to the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing the fourth and final season of Atlanta and also the legacy of the Donald Glover created show. And joining me today to discuss all things Popeye's chicken, black sushi, don't talk to them unless you're built like thick Judge Judy. It's Ebube and TMT. How are you guys
Woo!
doing?
Woo!
I'm
I'm
good.
good.
I'm thinking about the first time I had Popeyes and the first time I had sushi. I'm not going to tell you which one I liked more, so Demarcus doesn't come for me. But
Oh, we look.
It
We
was,
try
it
to
was
be a
Popeyes.
good black person, but you know what you like more. Like it was Popeyes. Um,
yeah,
TMT, welcome back. Obviously, first time since we spoke about Atlanta season 3.
Yes, sir.
hmm
Um, it would be you have a room in this house, so like,
yeah. Hi,
hi, I
listeners.
guess. Yeah. Um, well, yeah. I mean, we're gonna talk about Atlanta. We're gonna talk about this season. We all spoke about, three of us spoke about season 3, and I was meant to go back and re-listen to the episode, but I believe we all we liked season 3. We obviously some things tested our patience in terms of like personally. I've been saying ever since I liked season 3 a lot as a season. Maybe some things didn't work for me, but in terms of like some of the episodes, they're just spectacular. Apart from the one, which I still think is the worst Atlanta episode ever made. But let's not. We're not here to talk about season 3 of Atlanta.
yeah, don't
Let's talk
worry.
about
No,
season
no
4.
anthology is here to plague you this time.
And the only anthology I think might should actually win the Oscar for best documentary short film because I think I think the anthology episode in this season is just incredible. But we might
Truly.
get into all of that. Quick admin before anything else. We are talking about the White Lotus season 2 on this feed. So if you're watching the White Lotus, or if like everybody you've been season 1 and now you're watching season 2, please check our feed for all thoughts on White Lotus. Obiora and I spoke about episodes 2 and 3 last week, and all things being equal, Haja should be back for the rest of the White Lotus season. I'm enjoying this season, but apparently that might be an unpopular opinion. I'm not really sure, but I'm really enjoying this season. Also, we've like put out our very long thoughts on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So if you watch that movie like most of the world, please check out our thoughts on that. It's a very long episode, so it's fine if you want to listen to the episode in installments. No one's gonna judge you. Um Finally, this is TMT week, so you're listening to the first episode of TMT week. He's gonna be back later this week to join Ayo and I to recommend some shows, some of our best shows this year that you probably didn't hear about. So we're going to talk about shows that people weren't talking about on the timeline. So not House of the Dragon, not you warming up, but
Yeah, no House of the
The
Dragon or Rings of Power.
the
yeah,
deep cuts,
exactly.
people. The
We're
deep
gonna try
cuts.
and get some deep cuts for you guys. I already know some shows that people that AO and TMT are trying to recommend. So we're trying to go as deep as possible. And then not to spoil a future appearance, but that's in a few weeks' time. TMT will be back when we're going to discuss one of the best shows of the year. I'm not going to say what show it is, but I'm also going to give my top 10 that year, that episode. So yeah, he's going to make up for lost time, TMT, in the next few weeks. Um, all that being said, if you want to know when those episodes drop, what do you have to do? You follow us on whatever platform you're listening on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Also, please rate us, give us 5 stars. Just put the 5 stars there. Support black bad
Please.
businesses as even if we're a sushi restaurant in a blockbuster, just give us our 5 stars.
Big
Um,
facts.
just imagine that you've just watched Queen and Slim and your nationalism is high. But yeah, we're gonna talk about TV shows in the next few weeks. Right in time for your holiday binge. So please follow us. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and click that bell so you get notified about new episodes. Okay. I guess we talk about Atlanta season 4.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'll start with you, TMT. What did you think of this season as a season of television, as a season of Atlanta?
Um. Damn. The thing is, I don't want to because season 2 was so good, but I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
use the term return to form because I feel like, I mean, season 3 is at this point considered the weakest season of Atlanta. But for a lot of TV
Oh
shows, their best
wow,
seasons, no,
that's
it's
how people are
considered the
feeling.
weakest season. But for a lot of
I get
TV
it, yeah.
shows, for a lot of
It would
TV
be their
shows,
best
it
season.
would be their best season
Yeah.
ever. Like season 3 was a really good season, but I think
I
yeah,
felt sorry, really
yeah,
sorry to interject, but I felt really
uh,
bad the way I've been down on season three because I don't think it's a bad season at all. And I actually like a lot of the episodes of season three. I just felt like as a season, it didn't
You just
gel
don't
as
like it
much as
as
I
a whole.
wanted. Yes. But then I was like, no, because a lot of, and I think when, sorry, again, I'm sorry to jumping ahead, but when people do binge, like I think a lot of people binge season three, when people binge the entire show, you wouldn't feel that dissonance, right? I think part of it is because we
Mm-hmm.
waited, what, 3 years, 2 years for season
Mm-hmm.
three. And then we were, so yeah, like you said, yeah, it's the, saying return to form is a bit harsh because like it's
Yeah.
always been good.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, yeah, I mean it's literally that. The season is incredible. I think my favorite thing about it is kind of like taking me back to what Atlanta really is. It's you know those TV shows like Hey Arnold, where there's no continuity, but there's like progression, but there's no
Yeah,
continuity.
yeah.
That's what
Yes.
Atlanta is. It's just like adventures, you know. So I guess every
Hmm.
season, like a year or two passes, you can tell they're like slightly more successful, but it doesn't show like how they got from here to there. And I really like that, honestly.
It's not the
Sometimes,
main focus, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think season four does my favorite thing for a show like Atlanta, which is that it just shows me like that everyone is going to be okay. Except for Darius. Darius might die, like by accident. Just like
If he's not like if he's not dying in the tank right now, but we'll get to Darius.
no.
I love that Hey
Wow.
Arnold is your go-to show for like lack of content. Like that's the show that you went
Yeah,
for.
That's
Like
like a
I
a
mean,
show
direct.
about nothing.
Yeah,
you could have literally used any comedy in the last 30 years, and like you can
yeah,
use The Office. And
yeah.
you're
Even
like,
the one
no,
that's called A Show About Nothing,
yeah,
Seinfeld.
exactly.
Oh, Seinfeld. Yeah,
Seinfeld, yeah. Okay, Uwe, what do you think of season four?
I liked it a lot. I agree with what TMT just said, in the sense that a lot of season one was watching these people hang out in Alfred's house. And now it's season four, we see a little bit of them also hanging out at Alfred's house. But this is just one of those things where you really see that the term struggle shows is a real thing.
Hmm.
Like in season one, these people were struggling. Like it was almost like there was no hope. You could see the despondency, all that stuff. Now they're just chilling. They don't have to think about like where the next meal's coming from. They don't have to think about where money might come from. They're making time for each other. They're getting business done. Ern is actually a good manager that's not trying to book them in college girls' rooms instead of hotels. Like,
God, I miss
it,
season two. I'm just very.
yeah, I mean, sometimes you think about all those bad decisions, and you can really see, like we just said, progression without prescribed continuity. You can see that they're learning from mistakes.
Yeah.
You can see that Ern is somebody who is more confident in his ability to provide, which is something that he's always wanted to do. You can see that, well, Darius hasn't changed too much, but you can see that he's kind of been able to assimilate into a world that he doesn't necessarily understand, but like he's kind of made peace with being confused with everything around him. And Alfred is
Hmm.
finally kind of comfortable with himself. There was always Alfred, the quiet guy who's just like a good boy. And then there's Paperboy, who wants to be a big rapper that has a certain image. And now I think Alfred is finally comfortable with the relationship between himself and Paperboy. He's okay being those two people, not necessarily at the same time or separately, but I guess both depending on what the situation requires. And I think he's made a lot of progress in the area of being okay with the fact that Paperboy might not last forever.
mm,
He's fine with kind of just letting things go and allowing himself to be himself. Spend time with his family, enjoy his money, just have peace. Like
Yeah.
peace is something these people didn't used to have, and now they have it.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about
Yeah.
that.
Put a pin in that. We're gonna get to that in a second. I obviously agree with you guys' points. I really like season four as well. I mean, there was a point maybe at the beginning of the season when I was like, "Oh, are we in a tricky situation because they are like successful now? Like, can Atlanta still tell that story? Like, do we like them because they were fighting against? Like, obviously, even last season they were fighting against the Europeans, so like they were out still fish out of water. I was like, can they still tell a story or stories from a what they call it, successful point of view? And then they did. Just in summary, they were able to.
Yeah,
Um,
they did.
And I think we're going to talk about legacy quite a bit on this episode, mostly because we're going to talk about the legacy Atlanta leaves, like I mentioned earlier. But I think this season is also very, very focused on legacy. It's focused on growth and outgrowing your position. I think for Alfred, that's a bit like, what does it mean to be an aging rapper? A rapper that is very. It's funny because we never, we didn't really see Alfred's rap career. He
Yeah,
just started and was hustling, and then he came and he was successful, and now he's almost like dead. Like he's almost like Chief Keef in a family movie kind of situation. So
yeah.
he's trying to make peace with that. What does that actually mean? What does this second act look like? And I think for Ern, it's his own growth is a bit more personal and professional. It's like, okay, there's this new job opportunity in LA, and also he's finally in a position where he's the man that deserves the family he had at the beginning. Like the family he has in the finale is the same family he had in the pilot, but he's just a man that is now ready to take that family and deserves Van and deserves Lottie. It's funny you said this show doesn't have much continuity because that's obviously true. But I think season 4, in a very low key way, actually tells a continuous story. And I was like, I think this is the
So
first time they are doing it.
In a
it's
way, yeah.
definitely shown the most.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like
I think it's reflective of
simple
the fact
things
that they
like
have peace.
simple things like Alfred wearing the boot because of what
Yeah.
happened on the
Mm.
farm the previous episode. I was like, that's not something
Hmm.
Atlanta would normally do.
Mm.
Um Things like, I only realized this when I went back to watch the pilot, but Alfred gets the plant at Blue Blood's funeral. And that's obviously
Hmm.
what triggers his like green thumb with all the other with plants
Mm.
throughout the season.
Yep.
And yeah, I was just like, oh, this is, you're actually telling for the first time in probably in all 4 seasons, you're telling like
I think
they're
it's because the
you're
time skips
laying.
are smaller.
Yeah, probably. You're laying through it. I mean, the biggest time skip happens probably during the young white
Tw-
Tabitha episode.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
he goes
yeah.
from managing Yodo Kid to Grammy, so that's probably the biggest kind of time
Yeah.
skip within the story this season.
It
I
Mhm.
was like, oh,
happens in
you're
one
actually
episode,
telling
basically.
a continuous story because you could have easily just had the finale without Alfred wearing the boot, unless Brian Terry Henry got injured, which I don't think that happened.
Hmm.
So it's like
Bullet train.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you joke, but like I know part of the reason we didn't get much Darius and Van this season is because they were shooting oh, why is this name skipping my mind now? The cowboy movie with Idris Elba and Jonathan
How that
Majors.
they
How
fall
that
at
they
the box
Moneyball.
fall.
office.
Yeah. Jesus
Mm.
Christ. It was a Netflix movie. That's so rude. That's so
Oh,
rude,
yeah,
TMT.
exactly.
That's so rude. But yeah, no, I
Oh
think in
wow.
terms of like telling a continuous story, we can actually track the evolution of Alfred and Ern's stories during the season. I think
Yeah. And their
I'll try and
relationship.
listen. Yeah, exactly. I don't think Ern. I think Ern has to go to therapy and also open up about what happened to him in Princeton
Oh,
to be
that's
able
a
to
good
have that
episode.
conversation with Van and Sniper.
That's a good episode.
Yeah,
It oh
man, I loved that.
it's.
Like,
I think that's the
if
best
if I
acting
could
Donald Glover
if
has
I
ever
could
done.
imagine, like, bro, if I could have imagined any specific way or even non-specific way for them to tell us what happened at Princeton and why he left, like, I could not have come up with anything this good. Like,
Yeah, it's
the
so good.
content and the way it was delivered, the emotional payoff, and the fact that despite all that, he still went to destroy this white lady's life.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
like that.
god.
It
Should we
just
take a should we take
yeah,
a pause? Let's take a pause on and stay on that episode a second because
yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
I enjoyed that way too much. I feel like I shouldn't even feel bad. I enjoyed that way too much. I was
No,
just like,
I
wow,
thought
bro,
she
you really
was.
committed to this.
Yeah, I thought she was the obviously the older version of the girl that was at Princeton with him.
Yeah, I thought so
At
too.
first, yes.
I just didn't know that
100%.
she was just a
100%.
random racist woman at the airport. I was like,
I was like,
Bro,
I
like
was like,
when he even
white
said that,
women age crazy.
my goodness, like, bruh.
I was like,
That's
oh, so
actually what I was
you
thinking.
just have money earned. Like you really do have money
No,
right
like,
now.
because they baited us with that. Because they showed her
hmm
looking at this black guy in his apartment, and it's like, oh, like she just has a thing for people, and then she's going to like discard him. But like, that's another thing. I love the fact that, like you just said, Earn has money. That's something that started in season 3. The way they show it, like they just casually do things that can only be done by people who really have money,
You have money
Mhm.
right?
now. Yeah,
They,
yeah, yeah.
we don't even have to talk or think about it. They just have money. Earn is doing such interesting things. He even when he in Snipe Hunt, he's telling Van like, "Yo, this is not about companionship. Like companionship can be bought at my level. What I want is you. And he's being so sincere about it. Like any other person saying that might sound douchey. Even he has a slight tinge of douchiness
Yeah,
in it because you can't really say that without sounding douchey. But
yeah.
because
But
of the
he's
way
yeah.
Donald Glover is, like his acting muscles are working so hard there,
Mm-hmm.
like it comes off like really, really sincere, and I love that. And the way that they just have money is too funny. The fact that he decided on a whim to just get back at this lady. He's like, you know what? You destroyed my vacation. I'm going to destroy quite a bit more for you. Let's see what I can do. Like
Oh, your
when I
life.
saw when I saw what's his name, Terry.
Terry,
God,
that
that
Uh,
guy's that guy's so
no,
annoying. When I
Tracy.
saw him, I was worried. No,
Tracy,
Tracy,
Tracy.
Tracy.
Yeah.
When I saw Tracy, I was so worried. I was like, oh my
I
god,
thought
please
Tracy
don't
just
let
got
Tracy
a
come
job. I
back.
was like, this is a very weird
I was
crossover.
like,
Okay,
please don't
sure,
come
why not?
back.
Okay, Tracy.
Truly, like, and you know, it actually made sense because it's like that episode they were really playing with the expectations. Because like I said, first it was with this lady and the way she was looking at the black guy, but also like if you saw Tracy again in this show, this is basically exactly what you would expect him to be doing because
Yeah,
his prospects were not like
Mm-hmm,
he didn't
mm-hmm.
want anything more. Like this is actually the kind of job he was even interviewing for in the
Yeah,
last episode.
yeah, yeah.
So it made sense that that was what he would want to be doing and actually be doing. So they use all those expectations only at the end to tell us that, oh no, it was all a dream, but in a different way. In this case, it was all a nightmare. So
But I mean, and obviously, at the end of that particular episode, Ern says, "I need to go back to therapy," which obviously we know he
bro,
does because
I
oh
said,
yeah,
yeah, you really do.
I think
yeah.
And you need to commit
that,
to it this time.
yeah, that I know. I mean, to be fair to him, he did commit the first time. It's just that he still held on to his spikes. Like you don't give up that Princeton information if you're not committed to therapy. But it's just like he was
That's
like,
true.
I'm still gonna destroy this woman. I was like, oh wait, maybe I shouldn't. And then obviously that plus realizing that maybe his job wherever he works right now is actually a terrible piece of shit. Like they're
Mm.
supporting this Karen who has made a book because she put a
Oh,
gun at it. So he's like, okay, maybe I do need to take this personal
yeah,
Mm.
that's an
evolution and go
interesting
to
thing
LA.
actually. I
And then
liked
he
that
has
actually. Sorry, I liked how they showed how they're somewhat independent and they have money, but Earn as an agent works for an
mhm,
agency, and there's like all this kind of corporate stuff he still has to deal with. I think it's interesting to show that kind of price that, or let's say that exchange that comes with being successful
yeah.
in that way. I think that's pretty cool.
Also,
Yeah.
like when he talks to like the head at the meeting, it's a very interesting back and forth because you can tell. I mean, I guess the last season and this one, they show that Ern is like bossed up. He has more
Mhm.
money,
Yeah,
a lot more confidence. He dresses like a Nigerian man that lives in America. So like,
bro, facts, big,
yeah,
big, big
yeah.
facts.
So like, he's just like a certain way now, and even the way he deals with his boss before he goes to that D'Angelo kid.
D'Angelo.
He's like,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah, he's like, all
cool.
right. He's just very confident. He's like, no one can tell him shit.
Yeah.
Like last, I'll go back to winning to managing my superstar artist. Like I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
literally. It's a superstar artist who's probably paying their bills.
Bro.
In fact, speaking of paying their bills, one other thing I loved about that episode with the vengeance against airport ladies is how well his therapist takes care of him. Like,
Mm.
I feel like that's such an easy thing to miss, but they showed this therapist being so conscientious and thoughtful. Like getting him that pillow, I'm like, I feel like that's not even such a big thing, but I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I just loved it.
No,
I
that's an
really,
ad.
really loved
That's
that.
an ad for getting a black therapist. If you're a black, see a black therapist.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's definitely
Truly.
a big thing for someone like Ern because Ern literally says he only trusts Darius. Like the only
Yeah.
person in the world that he trusts is Darius.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Uh, yeah, and obviously that leads to, I guess, the second bit of incredible acting Donald Glover does this season, which is the conversation with Van and Sniper,
Hmm.
which I really should have written down. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I knew I was rooting for Van and Ern to be endgame until like that comment. I was like, oh wait, no, I do need you guys to be together. Like, I do need you guys to finish this
Yeah.
show together.
I think the show
I
makes you
actually,
not think about it too much, but
yeah, I was like,
you
oh
want it deep
yeah,
down.
I think Van in Europe kind of like helped me make peace with the fact that if they don't end up together, I'm happy for both of them either way. They'll be fine. But
Yeah.
it's nice like seeing that they got the opportunity to make that as a decision, both of them that they wanted to do, not like a thing they had to do because they had
yeah.
Lodi and all of that.
I mean, I guess also they're just like older because the season starts. Sorry, the show starts probably like what mid 20s. because he's come
I
back
would,
from Princeton. He hasn't finished from Princeton.
yeah,
Maybe he's like 23,
I
24.
would say it's
yeah.
been about 5 years because I mean you can kind of use Lottie as a benchmark. She was a baby he had to carry
Mm,
on a bus where somebody
Yeah.
was
It
saying
was her
bite this
sixth birthday,
sandwich.
right?
Yeah, and now she's 6. Yeah.
So he said, I said, so yeah, 60. So I'm thinking it's gone from like 23, 24 to like 30. So it's like now they're in a position where they're actually like, and also if because Ern was older. So not Alfred is older. So if
Hmm.
Alfred was like 26, yeah, so he's like, he cannot be a street, I guess. Like he can't be a street
yeah.
rapper anymore. Anyway, but we'll get to Alfred in a second. But yeah, no, I think you can just kind of see that progression that Ern needs to do these things to get to a position where he can say the truth to Van, even though she says it's a bit too Kanye, but still, it's like he's able to say everything that he really feels, and then
Oh
they
man.
can become a family. And then that shot of Lottie like smiling at the end while Sade plays, it's like, oh, okay,
Mm,
Yeah.
this is just a really good shot. But yeah, I mean, speaking of evolution, growth, you have Alfred who from the first episode with the blue blood thing, he's like, what exactly is actually going to be my legacy? If like, is it going to be 5 people appearing to my funeral? Is it going to be me having an album for 5 months and no one knows about it? Like, and I
yeah.
think because I went back to what the premiere and I was like, oh, that actually just sets in motion the entire season. Like
Mm,
Yeah.
like his entire arc throughout the season just starts from there. Like
Yeah.
literally, I think is the next episode. Or maybe it's
Every
episode
single
three.
episode
It's
is
episode three.
concerned with
There's the
legacy.
young white avatar one where he's like, okay, look,
yeah.
if we can't become rich, as in the kind of rich we want to be via arena tours or whatever, how do
Then
we
let's
do
live
it?
on this way. Yeah.
Yeah, do we go find a Jack Harlow? Do we go find a Yoru Kid? Like, what
Not
do we do?
you
And then
coming for Jack
it was the
Harlow.
first white industry plan that came to my mind. I apologize.
He
Jack
There's
called
a
Harlow
him
is
an
not an
industry plant.
industry plant. He's been
He
in
called
his
him an industry
industry.
plant. I'm going to scream.
No, no. I mean, he might be an industry plant. I don't know.
like, is he not an industry plan? Like,
I
bro.
think every white
Yo.
rapper gives industry plants. I won't lie to you. It's hard
Oh
to
my
not
god.
to.
How long has Jack Harlow been out? As in
I,
being
I
a
mean,
rapper?
you know my history with Jack Harlow. Like,
Oh yeah, that's
that's
true. I forgot about that. That was a random. I forgot about that.
and that was
Do you want to
2012.
tell our listeners what your history with Jack Harlow is?
Please tell them.
I
Oh
actually
my
Oh
did say
god.
god.
that you're going to talk about it the next time on the podcast. I completely forgot about that. Actually,
Yeah, I used to
that was
make
a random.
into. We don't kill me.
Everybody's dying. Can you just give a second? I don't understand what's going
In
Okay.
20, I want to say 2013. Yeah, 2013. I was like 19. God, I'm old. I was making beats on SoundCloud and I was just putting them out. And I was just like enjoying myself. And this account hits me up. It's like, hey, I really like this beat. Can you send it to me? I want to do something with it. I'm like, yeah, sure, go at it. And then he sends me the track back, and I might have to send it to you so you can play it. But like, yeah, he just raps on it and he's like, Harlow, my family name, God Ambition, because I plan to be great. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And he's good, but like, I think at the time his name was Mr. Harlow. So yeah, like as I live and breathe, I have a song that I made with Jack Harlow. It exists
Is
on the
it?
internet.
Wait, is it your song or his song?
It's my song because it's my
So
beat. That's
I can legally
you
play
can
it.
legally play it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, then please send it to me. Please send it to me.
I'll send you a link. You might have to download it
Oh
from
my
YouTube.
Yeah,
god.
that's fine.
There's a YouTube that archives all of his old unreleased music. And the worst thing
Is it
about
there?
this, yeah, it's there. The worst thing about it is that like the icon was it's my like old SoundCloud icon, and it's just a picture of me holding a Fleet Foxes vinyl. So the album art for this Jack Harlow song is me in a sweater holding a Fleet Foxes vinyl. It is so bizarre, and I have like the widest grin on my face, and it looks like I'm happy that I worked with Jack Harlow. Meanwhile, he was
Y'all see.
14. He was 14 at the
Oh
time.
my god. Oh Jesus.
Y'all see. TMT's already coming with the deep cuts.
Yeah. My
Bro, the
point is
deep
just gonna be
cuts.
like Jack Harlow like hosted and was musical guest on SNL like 3 weeks ago. Like
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's industry plan behavior. Like how has it gone that kind of how has it blown up that quickly to be hosting and
Like we've
but
only really been caring about Jack Harlow. I think the general consciousness has been caring about Jack Harlow maybe 2 years.
Maybe 2
Maybe.
years.
was
Yeah.
it 2 years the song came out? But maybe 2 years. I guess
I
COVID
think
kind of makes time weird.
yeah, it was really the thing with Lil Nas X that kind of took him to different heights.
You think
Possibly.
so?
I think
Oh.
that was. Oh, was there something big before that? Maybe there was. I can't remember.
I mean, that song was big, wasn't it? Because people knew the song without knowing him. Like people thought he was black.
Which one?
I can't remember the name of the song.
What's
The main
poppin'?
one. Yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But anyway,
Um,
that's not what
yeah.
we're talking about.
Sorry, before you go on, there's
Yeah.
something I want to note. because Ebube brought up Seinfeld earlier, and in the first episode of the season, there's a direct reference to it where Ern and Van get lost in the parking lot,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's like Seinfeld, and they just keep meeting these people from their past.
Was Seinfeld that like surreal?
No, it wasn't that surreal, but there's literally an episode. It's one of the most famous episodes. I think it's called the parking lot. But like, in fact,
Oh.
if you go on Netflix, the icon once you kind of like hover over the Seinfeld icon, it shows
Mhm.
them all the cast walking through a parking lot. There's an episode where they go to the mall and they park somewhere and they come out and they spend the rest of the episode looking for the car, and it's very funny.
Okay, let's finally talk about Alfred. Since let's leave our Jack Harlow. Uh, anyone listening to this, please wait till the end of this podcast because the song is definitely going to be played at the end of this podcast. Yeah, so Alfred, like I said, you can really track the evolution of his character's stress throughout this. I just love how these writers. If there's one thing I'm going to miss is how they just loved putting Brian Tyree Henry in danger and just like
Mm.
because you could always just tell on his face. He just like even this season alone, you obviously have the farm episode, but you have when he's shot at, like his friend from school is shooting at him, and you can just see the stress
That's
on
like,
Brian's
bro,
face.
wow,
True,
like
true, true.
beef that hard. I mean, my goodness. I mean, literally in the penultimate episode of the season,
Mm,
the caption, because that's another thing about Atlanta. The descriptions of the episodes are low key hilarious,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and for that one, it's like they're making Paperboy go through it again. Like when I saw him in the woods, when I saw him and then I saw him shooting and then I saw trees, I was like, bro, you haven't learned that the forest is not for you.
Oh, I mean,
Like,
we're here now. I'm just say I was so sure he was gonna die this episode.
bro, like once I saw that hog looking at him, I was like, it's game over.
Like I was like,
This guy's really going to die by
I
a
was
hog.
like, it's one episode left to the season series finale. Like, Paperboy dies this episode. Like,
I,
it's
I
gonna be another rapper
genuinely
dying story.
I genuinely believe
I don't know.
that
Time will
Donald
be
Glover
waiting.
accepted his role as Simba in Lion King. So on one of the conditions was that they have to animate that hug for him because that CGI was way too good for how much ever effects are giving them.
No, yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, that is
I think
that's
yeah, because I he said they were using because Brian was I saw Brian in an interview. It was obviously a guy in a suit, so like a mocap
Mm,
suit. And then I guess the CGI, but yeah, it was very good CGI. Like I was like, wait, this is like really
yeah,
good. And it wasn't even like not everywhere was like it was night, but it wasn't like so dark that you
pitch
can't tell. I
black.
was like, this is really good. Yeah. Um. But yeah, Alfred realizes that he can't be a young white avatar manager after Yodo Kid dies. He realizes that like it's just like what does it say, dirty or something like that. And I think that also pushes him to like, okay, what can my life look post this? Like what if I can't be the shadow manager of a white rapper, what do I do? And then obviously Soldier Boy comes to him about State Farm because, like a good nigga, State Farm's always there for you. And then
oh my
I
god.
don't know if Krang Dead Killer episode or even his story in the episode has like some larger thematic meaning. Maybe you guys can tell me. I just found it very funny. Obviously, the Ern and Darius plot in the episode is very funny to me, but I don't know if he has any larger meaning to his storyline. But I know obviously the conversation with Soldier Boy leads him to having the farm, which leads to obviously episode 9. And I think he's probably someone that is going to be like we was talking about him being at peace, and I think that's probably what the rest of his life is. Like he's going to be at peace. Like maybe he
Mm.
puts out one or two albums when he decides to actually retire, or maybe he doesn't retire. Maybe he evolves into a country Jay Z where he can come out with an album once in a while, but like he's really just living on the farm and like
Mm.
making do
Yeah.
with his money.
I think
Aaron
yeah,
obviously is smart.
farm
Aaron is not a
longevity.
fool, so Aaron is probably going to make wise investments on whatever. So
And he
I
made
mean,
sure that Alfred owns all the masters. So
true,
true,
true. And he said it
true.
casually, like, yeah, of course. No, it's just I like how it shows how Atlanta plays with tone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's an episode with an active shooter. But it's still like it's probably one of the lighter episodes of the season. And it shows like
Um,
darkness and light in Atlanta is very,
well,
very
yeah. I mean, look. Speaking of, you're talking about Ash, everything's on as well. But you're speaking about playing with tone, and the reason that is not as dark as it could be is because in the middle of this firefight, This boy comes
This
to rap
nasty ass nigga in the van.
to Paperboy. I can't remember what he said. So I'm writing down what he said because the rap was so stupid. It was so stupid.
Mm. Like that made my head actually ache a little bit because, like, bro, do you can't read the room or what? That was
Yeah.
just so weird.
No, that's just hip hop for you, man. I
The
mean,
desperation.
speaking of good raps, Blue Blood. I mean, I hate to take us back, but Blue Blood was
The
played by my
scavenger
boy.
hunt.
Yeah, split by my boy Earl Sweatshirt. The bars were immaculate.
Oh, I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it was voiced by Earl,
Oh,
who was like a massive MF Doom fan. So that's like an MF Doom reference.
yeah. No, I mean, like
Yeah,
I knew from like even I think MF Doom as well. Obviously, he died months before it was announced. So, like from the second,
yeah,
that's like an MF Doom reference.
yeah.
Um, very annoyed I didn't remember the lines that guy said. What did he say?
Who Blue Blood?
Ah, this is no, not Blue Blood.
No,
The
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 kid
white
who
boy that
runs
tries to,
up.
or the I don't think it was white. The Latino that tries to rap to
Oh,
him,
that guy.
and then
Please,
he gets thrown into the glass, and I could not stop laughing.
No,
I
like
would
when
rather
I had
listen
to
to
watch that
County
stuff multiple
Clark.
times, I was like, because bro, he really shattered that glass. I'm like, bro, Alfred is really strong when he's desperate. Because my goodness, how you
He
the
was
way
also
he
running at full
flung that
speed.
guy.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, is Alfred's growth season, and he grows into. I guess season 1 and 2 is like trying to make it right. He has that hunger to make it. Season 3 is he's made it, but and he thinks this is it. This is he can do tours. He can do not arena because he's doing arena tours sometime between 3 and 4. But he's like, I can do tours. I can do this. And then it's like, do I really want to do this? Like post the next 5 years? Like
Yeah,
maybe my
it's
life is a lot more calmer because Alfred is actually, like you said, Alfred has always had this dichotomy where Alfred himself is a bit calm and a bit laid back and wants to just
Yeah,
smoke his weed. He's Paperboy that wants the success, and I was like, okay, well, I'll have it. Maybe I don't have to be the biggest artist in the world. I can just get my money and
yeah.
chill at the
Like
farm.
not him taking advice from Soldier Boy. Atlanta is so funny. Like they found a way to make
I couldn't believe
Soldier
it got
Boy
Soldier Boy in here. Yeah,
in Atlanta to make a point that made sense.
I
Like,
mean,
yeah. Also, Soldier Boy is like an OG in Atlanta at this point. He's like, I think he's like my age, which is wild. He's like 30, 31, maybe 32. But
I
Soldier
think
Boy,
he was 17 when Crank in 2007. I think he's
yeah,
1990. Yeah, so probably like 32. Yeah.
32. Like he's young, but he's old enough to be an OG
he's
in
been
hip hop.
around.
And it
Which
kind
is
of
kind
speaks,
of what that guy was saying though in the
yeah,
YWA, like someone like Chief Keef. Chief Keef, when did he blow up? And it's like when you're 30, you're beyond OG. It's time
yeah,
to do family films.
yeah, like actually done in hip hop as a 30 year old. That's insane.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah,
insane, man.
it's wild. Like it's almost like you can keep going, but it's only as much as you can manage relevance, and relevance is a concept that is, well, relative. It's something
Yeah.
people bestow on you, right? It's in the agency of others. You can't really control it. I think the only thing that has less longevity is probably like people who play sports professionally. Like that
But
one,
that
you
Mm,
was
know your
different
clock
because
is
you know
ticking.
it's coming.
Yeah, you know, but
And
this one
unless
you
you're
don't know
Ronaldo, you
exactly
just
when.
accept it.
Yeah, exactly. And
Um
it makes me think about a lot of stuff about how only certain people get to make it to elder status in hip hop
hmm,
in general. Like we don't have that many people that are like kind of passing down, wisdom to all the little
mm,
this, little that of the
mm,
of the world that we have today. So I mean, you have Jay-Z, there's Snoop, some on some level Dr. Dre, like a lot of these guys, and even people who have been around long but aren't necessarily like aged yet, like um Soldier Boy, right?
mm-hmm,
You not everybody gets to make it to the end of the road in hip hop. Either you lose relevance or like somehow you sadly end up dying. That's something I
hmm,
was kind of thinking about a little bit with what happened
take
um
off.
to Take Off recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's almost as if sometimes you don't get like you don't get to grow old in that profession depending on where you are, and that's like a very sad thing.
mm,
um my friend Tyra Berry actually talked about this a little bit in her new podcast, Pop Culture is Killing Me. And it's just a really interesting thing because we're conditioned to not think about it so much because like to the to kind of the forces that control what may happen. The life of someone like Takeoff is something that people will mourn for a little bit and then maybe not really think about too much because
Mm.
they just keep bringing new people. There'll be young white avatars to come and take his place, stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of a sad cycle. So I like the idea that Alfred comes to terms with that, becomes okay with that within himself, and actually takes soldiers' advice to buy a
Yeah,
farm and
far.
just be able to reseed there whenever necessary.
Yeah, that's obviously another example of the show following continuity threads. But back to what you said, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be the rap historian, but like I think it's obviously that kind of not only even rap, but that kind of rap changes so quickly. Like you can't be a 30-year-old rapping about like the street life because probably the 16-year-olds are doing something completely different, and you are out of
Yeah.
touch.
Sorry,
So
Logic literally
have
talked
you
about
met
this.
have you met the biggest rapper around for like the past 10 years? Drake. Of
Drake is
course
a
you
little
can.
bit different.
but so
Drake is a
Drake
little
will
bit
go to my
different
next
because
point because like
Drake is a pop star.
yeah,
Like I'm
Drake's
sorry if that offends anybody.
I was like,
Drake
no,
is a
that was
No,
pop
he
going
star,
is
to
a
be my
and
popstar.
point. He
and
goes
he's
pop.
okay
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah.
Drake is different. Like
that was
he's
going to be my
not
point. Like
a hip hop
you
OG
can't stay.
in
You
that
can't.
way.
I mean, obviously, some people like obviously Pusha T will keep on rapping about coke, but like you can't really stay quote unquote street and about shooting people for so
hmm
long. Like you either need to either go pop or you release one album in 6 years.
And when people want that from you, it burns you out. Like Logic actually talked about that when he quote unquote retired from hip hop. He's like, you guys want me to be talking about struggle? You want me to be talking about people hitting licks? You want me to talk about danger? Like, bro, I just want to like rap about the fact that I'm comfortable now and spend time with my son. Like
And the
that's
fact
all
that
I
I'm
want.
mixed race, because Logic does work. He likes rapping about that.
Yeah, like he's
Oh
he's
my
really just
god, I
trying to
don't.
chill.
People are taking shots in this episode. But anyways, yeah, no, I mean, I just, I guess Alfred, yeah, he reaches, like you said, reaches a sense of peace and the point where he's just like, I mean, sorry, just I remember something I was going to say, but it's interesting that like someone Alfred, who we have seen his come up, we've seen his struggles and everything, that guy in the mall thinks Alfred can put him on, right? He's like, he thinks, oh, if I can rap for Paperboy,
Yeah.
Paperboy can like make me like Paperboy's cosign makes me the next guy. And we're like, are you
I like
sure
that he's
about
big
that?
like
This
that.
guy is this guy is struggling. Are you sure that these people? But it's like you said,
But
there's such a dearth of like people in that stratosphere that can actually make people right. And it's like,
Mm.
yeah,
oh,
I mean,
Paperboy is actually and
it's funny because DJ Drama made Jack Harlow, so I
mhm.
guess it's like literally the white avatar thing. Um, I guess
this is
Oh
it's
no,
still
I mean
that guy
that.
heavy,
was
but
me.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that is not. I think that is very, very like
yeah,
based in fact. The young white
yeah.
avatar. I don't think it's.
That's
I
I
don't
mean
think it's a
I
lie.
love this stuff. Like they wouldn't really be showing something like that if there was if there wasn't part of it rooted in truth. I mean, we know
Mhm.
Mm.
that Donald Glover is literally a rapper. So I mean, there's one episode where they're with is it Clark County, and they're in the studio, and then like the engineer is having problems with the system,
Oh
and
yeah,
then he
yeah,
has these guys to
yeah.
leave,
And Clark just steps
and
out,
yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go, and then he
and I
has
know for a fact that
people
Donald
there. So
Glover has experienced that.
yeah,
Like,
he's like
he's
because
not going to tell us
obviously
who
you
it
know that
was.
that engineer is not okay. Like we know that probably till today he's not okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
Donald Glover was like, yeah, this is something that he's witnessed before. Like he's seen they've seen a
Oh, did
situation.
he say so?
Like I heard that like in an interview they
Yeah,
talked about how
I
like
yeah, I
he's not
definitely
gonna
believe
name
it.
names, but like that's something that he's kind of seen, like where people have to kind of be fearful.
Hmm.
So
I
Do you
mean, speaking
remember?
of,
Sorry,
so go
yeah,
ahead.
but
No, go
do you
ahead.
guys remember when Kanye posted like the text messages between him and his? I think it was like an audio engineer, and Kanye messages him,
I've
"Oh,
tuned
you're
out Kanye for years, so like
no,
you have
no,
to
no.
tell me
This
what
is
it was.
this is really good.
No,
Yeah,
you have to tell me what it is. God, I don't remember. I didn't see it, so you have to tell me.
Kanye basically says, "Oh, you're supposed to be here at 7. At it was supposed to be here at 9, at 8. At 10 a.m. It's 11
Hmm.
a.m." And the guy was like, "Oh, sorry, I overslept. I'm on my way." And Kanye is like, "You guys, don't come anymore. Find God."
Find God.
that's
yep,
what's
that's the thing
that's
that
all.
happened.
That's all he replied.
Find God.
Oh God.
Um,
Just imagine.
I mean, just while we're on, I just remember the engineer. When you talk about engineer, I remember Paperboy pouring Hennessy on the the deck just because some
Yo.
guy named Dog was around.
And then he saved his
Bruh.
life and he had to record him. Oh my god.
Bruh,
The
that
fact
shit
that they
was
played that
funny.
song in the credits
No,
was too
it's not.
much.
It's not music. It's just sounds. Uh,
Yo, there is absolutely no like they had you that's the kind of thing that you have to work hard to make something sound that
that
discordant.
bad. Especially when there's
Yeah.
so many talented musicians around. Okay, let's talk about the finale. I think it's very, very Atlanta to give us such big like Darius revelations in the finale where we have no
Mhm.
time to deal with it and act upon
Mm.
them. I was like, why are you telling me
Yep.
this now? I need to think about. I need to
Literally.
relax with this. But yeah, I mean, I thought the finale was. I thought it was at that point. I was like, okay, so the finale is just going to be like a normal Darius episode. Like, there's nothing Atlanta-y in the finale. There's nothing that's going to be like going to change the way we perceive the show. And then the show was like, haha, you thought.
Until Thick Judge
Um,
Judy showed up.
yeah,
You guys
or
think
did she?
Atlanta is Twin
Yeah,
Peaks?
right?
It's not Twin
I mean,
What
Peaks.
that's
I mean,
literally that's literally
yeah,
what they've said. It's called the
that's what
Twin
he
Peaks
said.
with rappers.
So, what did we think of the finale? Did we enjoy the finale? What do we think of the Darius revelations?
Well,
Oh.
I did like the finale. I thought it was an interesting ride. I thought it said a lot about Black culture. But I find it interesting that it put that sort of in the background and then made Darius the A plot because usually
I
Darius is
too
not
want to
the A
put that in
plot.
the background. I don't necessarily like. I don't
Yeah,
have any
no,
opinions. I just like. I don't really want to debate black people
yeah.
going to
I
Popeyes or
think
not
on
right
some
now.
level that whole thing. I mean, just I guess touching on that Black culture B plot for a moment.
Mm,
I think it was somewhat fine. I wonder if it's something that Glover feels himself. But at the same time, I think that if it's something that we sort of should be thinking about as a community, it might have been better to kind of explore it through kind of a more conversational or nuanced, subtle way that the show usually does things through its own surrealism rather than have Demarcus like talk at them. So it's kind of like sounding a little bit preachy in a sense, preachy
mm,
yet condescending. But at the same time, I mean, it worked in the context of the episode. But if we're looking at the deeper meanings of what he was saying and its implications, I
hmm
wonder if that's kind of how it comes off. Because at the same time, like, yeah, everything he said was true, but you still have to kind of be in the right place at the right time for certain things to work. He's like, yeah, they said, make the best sushi and the customers will come. Well, sure, maybe on some level, but you positioned yourself opposite a Popeyes and you wanted black people to come inside. You could
And
have
you're
been
in an
anywhere
old
else.
blockbuster.
And you're in an old blockbuster, which is kind of like bad luck. That's just bad
Yeah.
luck. There's a reason those people aren't there anymore. Even like, which even reminds me, Netflix is making a series called or a movie called
I think it's
Blockbuster, which
out.
is so
Yeah.
rude. Like
It's
Well,
that is
actually
so rude.
it's terrible behavior, honestly.
Like what?
the victors
Imagine
dance on
if
the graves.
imagine if 50 Cent just bought all of Ja Rule's masters.
Isn't
That is so
impossible? Is it
bad.
impossible for 50 Cent to do that?
It's
Not
not
really.
impossible. But
It's not impossible.
Oh god. But yeah, I think that part of it was sort of an interesting thing, especially since black people knowing that there's poison in something or there might be poison might not want to
Mm,
try it.
mm,
But that and obviously Darius kind of removes them from that situation. But the day he has is very interesting because he's really kind of trying to think about whether like how much of what he's seeing is real. And I
mhm,
talked before about how Darius is okay with kind of being confused.
hmm
But in this episode, we find Darius trying harder, like not that hard, but still harder than we usually see him try to define what is actually going on,
mhm.
right? He gets picked up by London, and we find out that that's kind of a dream. That whole sequence. I mean, like
I wonder how the
as
sorry.
somebody who has driven on the roads of America, that thing was just stressing me out. I'm not
I
even
wonder
gonna
how
lie.
the like brainstorming session goes in like the Atlanta, right? Like maybe
Oh my
Donald's like,
god.
well, maybe London is drinking, and then and then Stephen is like, she just chugs the entire bottle of vodka, and then Stephen Robinson's like, yeah, and she steals the cop's gun. It's like, what is going on?
No,
Why
like
are we getting
every
worse?
step of that thing was just making me scream. Like I didn't. Who would have thought that a scene like that would stress me as much as the hog from the previous episode, right? But literally, I was
When
watching
she
this like
chugs down the
when
vodka,
she
I'm like,
started
what
chugging
is
it, I was
going
just
on?
like my jaw dropped to the floor
Do
because
you
I
know,
was like,
like
okay, so
she
I
she
gonna find
chugged
a way
it.
to a hospital now.
She chugged it.
And
And
they showed her taking her time
She
to chug
went.
it.
She went.
She really did, bro. Her guts should be on fire. Like
And
that was just wild on so many levels.
the
Then
cop
she's
was
able to
like,
walk in a
Jesus
straight line,
Christ.
dancing. And then he asked her this obscure question about this TV show, and she answers.
Yeah.
And then everything is fine. I'm like, oh wow. Darius too. He's like, oh wow. I guess that went okay. Then she takes the gun, and then panic ensues. Then they hit this random person who comes into the road. Then she comes out of the car and starts sprinting. And then he realizes the gun is in his hand. Yo, if he didn't wake up at that point, I'd have been like, yo,
So
Atlanta, dude, please,
the
please.
reason, and we'll talk about this in a second, but the reason there can even be a debate as to whether Darius sees thick Judge Judy or normal Judge Judy is because everything you just described, apart from the gun appearing in Darius's hand, can happen in
Can
Atlanta
happen
episode.
in Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah.
So like
And that's why it plays with our
it's not
expectations.
really that far fetched in
Yeah,
an Atlanta
exactly.
episode.
It wasn't far fetched. It was just stressful.
Yeah, and obviously Darius goes, and we realize, obviously, we see Darius goes to realize that both his parents and his brother have passed away. His brother was obviously
And he
ill.
can't procreate. So Darius is the only person who doesn't really get to have legacy.
Wait, where was that? Did I miss that?
He mentioned in season 3 that he can't procreate. I
Oh,
think his testicles have been removed. So, he's lost his brother. He doesn't have parents. And I don't like that he's the one Nigerian guy who has to suffer all this. And he's kind of just like a hanger on. I mean, a friend asked, like, I don't know. It's like I've had people ask, like, okay, what is Darius's role in this group? Like, what does he do? And actually, somebody even asked me about this last night, and I was like, he's their friend. And we just started laughing because honestly, what is Darius's job? I mean, he clearly adds value, but I think it's very telling that none of them and none of us who watch the show can clearly define the value, that value is that Darius is bringing to the
But I
table.
mean, in
But we know
defense
that
of
there will be
Darius,
nothing without him.
yeah, because
Darius is a
defense of
bad boy.
Darius. Is that just it? No, but
No,
I was
Darius.
saying like,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go on.
no, I was gonna say everybody loves him. Like he's
Yeah.
the best out of everybody. Like Aaron says, he's the only person I trust. Like
He's also very useful.
mhm.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like he's just that
Do-
person who can.
You remember
do
episode
certain
1
things.
of season 1? He was the one who shot that guy, wasn't he?
No, I think that was Alfred.
No, that was Alfred.
No,
Alfred
was it
Renfrew.
Al?
I don't
It
think it
was
was
Alfred.
Darius. Yeah, I think it was Al.
It was Alfred because like he had the gun to his chest, but Darius has come clutch in a lot of ways. Like remember, even when we first
Yeah, I
meet him,
thought it
what's
was
he doing?
Darius.
He's holding the knife.
He's standing by the door and he's holding a knife,
Holding a
and then as
knife,
soon as he
whatever.
realizes Ern is not a threat, he offers him a cookie.
Yeah,
Like if that's not the like that's just two sides already, and then the part where Ern needs some money, and then he takes him through this whole thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to get you this dog, and then the money from that dog eventually comes back, and Ern is like, oh my god,
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
and then Van and Darius have a connection.
yeah.
Alfred obviously loves Darius. I think they've only ever like they have that one part in season 2, episode 1, where they are fighting over something and nobody knows what it's about. And then they have the part in season 3 where it's like, you're not going to pay. What are you doing right now? But like you can obviously tell that like they love each other, and so yeah, I don't know. We can't. I don't know. He's living life. Man, Darius is living the best out of everybody here. He doesn't have to work, but everybody loves him.
Yeah.
And he gets paid for
I
stuff.
like that he's
He's
comfortable.
probably
with that.
doing stuff for money. Like
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and
That,
also
that
he
we
must
just
be.
don't know about, right?
Yeah, he must be. He must also be doing really well. Because do you remember that? You know the classic scene that's been going around recently of Ern saying, "I need money now. I can't wait till later. I can't invest." You know why Darius gets the
Yeah.
pit bull and he
Season-
goes on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would make my role. That's like Darius clearly has some disposable income.
He has. I mean, he's even talked about how he changes his phone every month so they don't track him. And I think that's just something I think about sometimes because
Yeah.
it's like even when they were in the most like struggle defining situations, this guy was still able to
He
do
always
that. Like he had
he always had
priorities.
routes, yeah.
He had like Darius. It's not as if he didn't have to worry about anything. He just didn't worry about anything, and that kind of made him an interesting like mix up in the tone of the show. I like that a lot. Even though he doesn't end up getting to have legacy, he's kind of part of the legacy of his family and friends. And I think it's very cool that the show ends on him. Plus, who knows? Like maybe actual Judge Judy is thick. I mean, she's
Okay.
She's wearing a robe. We don't know.
Let's okay. That's a choice he made.
We don't know what Darius sees. I mean,
so okay,
yeah.
that's interesting that you just said that, Ebube, because it kind of opens a window into your thinking. I wasn't gonna. I do want to do this because it's quite bait, it's quite obvious, but I guess we have to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
somebody's gonna want us to do
we have to ask,
it.
like, what do you guys think? Do you guys think? What do you think Darius sees? Do you think Darius sees thick Judge Judy or normal Judge Judy? Do you think they're in a simulation? Do you think it's normal, quote unquote? What do you guys think? Everybody else, no, TMT, sorry, you.
Um, I don't think it matters, honestly. I think since we saw that invisible car in the first episode, like it's always been really. It's always nothing really matters at this point. Where do we
Yeah,
live?
truly.
Atlanta 100% doesn't take place in our universe.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
I mean it's a parallel universe 100%. And who else has the capacity to really pull off a parallel universe? Who more so than Darius's imagination? Or what's more so than
Yep.
Darius's imagination?
So you think he's still in the tank?
I think it's very possible. I think the first time he saw Thick Judge Judy, he didn't smile, did he? He was just kind of relieved.
Or at the end?
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
he
no,
was
no, no,
relieved that
no.
he had something
Earlier.
to hold on to, like he had an
Yeah,
anchor for reality. But
yeah.
I think at the end when he's smiling, we don't get to know because on some level he could be smiling because it's Thick Judge Judy and it's a dream.
Hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think actually he could be smiling because it's regular Judge Judy and he realizes that, oh, this is fine. I'm happy to be here. I
Yeah.
will say though that I think it's quite possible that it is a dream, not because of anything that's happening in that specific scene, just because of the way he comes, and not even because of the pink Maserati, because that's very possible. I mean,
In
I
Atlanta,
think it's more
100%.
because of the yeah, I think it's more because of the way he comes in and hits DeMarcus across the face,
Hmm.
just because. How did he know what they were going through in that moment? Like, how did he know what to save them from? That's the only
No,
thing
wait.
that's making me
So
feel
what are
that
you
way.
saying? You're saying that the end of the show is a dream. What about rather the end of the episode? What about the beginning of the episode? What about the
I
other
think no, I think it's
39
both. Like
episodes?
I think everything that happened in this series happened in the world of the show. I think as far as the 10th episode of the final season is concerned, we know what is a dream and what is reality except for that last scene. And I think that last scene might be a dream just because of how he punches DeMarcus and the fact that there
No, no,
was no
okay.
real way
Sorry. What
there's
I'm
no
saying
real
is,
way he would have known.
I don't know. I feel like I'm in a few good men now. I want you to give me an answer. Like, tell me
I'm
what
trying
you.
to. I'm
No, no, no,
trying
no.
to.
You're hedging. Tell me what you think. Gone to your head. Is it a dream or is it not a dream?
No,
And you
I'm
know what?
saying I think it's a dream
And
and
I
I'm trying
It's
to
a
think
dream.
explain
no, but I
why.
think the implication of that is that whatever happens in that moment is the truth for the entire show.
Yeah.
So, like,
But
if
here's the thing,
it's a
though. I
dream
think
in
that
that
moment
moment,
actually
then
happened. I think there is a dream version of Darius going through that. And I think that they are also actually in that place trying to have a good time before
so
Earn and
when
Van leave for
if
LA.
the camera was over his shoulder, what do we see on the TV? Thick Judge Judy or normal? I've said thick Judge Judy so many times on this episode. Thick Judge Judy or normal Judge Judy? What do we see?
You can just call that TJJ.
Uh,
But no, but I like saying thick Judge Judy.
T double
yeah, it
J.
has, fortunately, it
Everybody,
has
what's
quite
your
a ring
answer?
to it.
What do we see?
I'm,
I don't know. I'm
I'm
pressing
going to,
like I'm cross examining you.
yeah, I've been thinking, I waited to kind of watch all this, at least these final parts. So I actually just watched this last night and I've been thinking about it because I knew it'd come for me. But I actually do think that he sees Thick Judge Judy
Okay.
simply because simply because like I said of what happens to Demarcus. Like I think what happens in that room when they're all together happens, but I think Darius's version of it is a dream because there is no way he could have known to come in and punch Demarcus at that exact moment,
No, he's
even within
driving
the
in and then he
confines of
sees.
Atlanta.
It's a very confrontational standoff. Like Demarcus them are standing on one side and the others are standing on the
Okay, but
other
how did
side
he know they needed Popeyes and that they were trying to leave that place?
because it's a dream.
Exactly.
But if that's a dream, that means everything is a dream. It means Clark
Okay,
County
that's
was
the
a
that's
dream.
where I
It
draw the line.
means
I don't think everything is a dream. I
I
think
think
that
the
just the
implication of the
contents
show
of the
is that
episode are a dream.
no, I think the show
I don't think it's trying to make far-reaching implications as
I
to
think it
everything
is.
we've seen. Okay.
So I mean, look, okay, let me tell you my initial reaction when this is because once it happens, I'm like, okay, this is how the show is gonna end. I know this is gonna be an inception thing. We're not gonna see I know that's gonna happen. I'm like, okay, this can
Yeah.
just be a thing that they throw in. And I don't think there is no there's no answer. There's no right or wrong answer. Definitely not. But I think I might personally I've changed over the past week since I watched this finale. But I think I'm gonna go with the implication that like this entire show has been a simulation in Darius's brain.
That's
I don't
very
know. I guess
true.
that's a more fun explanation for me.
I mean,
Also
it is
explains
fun.
the invisible cars, man. It explains Teddy Perkins. It explains Mr. Chocolate. It just explains so much.
I mean, perhaps. However, I don't know. I feel like I don't have enough reason at the moment to draw the conclusion that it was all a dream, even though that's what the final episode is literally
You
called.
need more reasons than invisible cars.
Honestly, yes.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, yes.
I
Because
don't know what you're dreaming
I've
about.
accepted those as reality
Hmm.
for the show. I've accepted those as kind of a surrealist reality for what's going on in the series. So I feel like that's something that, like, certain things kind of are accepted as plausible. I feel like there's definitely a dream going on, and I do, like I said, feel like that final episode is a dream sequence for Darius, or at least that final scene. But I do think there's a real version of it that happens, and I do think that most of the other stuff we've seen before have been real. I mean, because there's certain things that Darius just wouldn't have been able to dream up necessarily.
Why
Yeah.
not?
So,
But
I
anyway,
think
let's
I think
yeah,
it's a
sorry,
dream
go
for the
ahead.
writers, but for all of us, it's reality.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean,
So much
that's one way to
hedging
look
going
at
on in
it.
this episode. No, I mean, look, I don't think, like I said, I don't think there is any right or wrong answer. I think, again, it's just
Like TMT said, it
how
doesn't matter
great.
as much.
Yeah, exactly. Just how great an actor like Keith is, because I think you can interpret that expression on his face whichever way you want. Like whichever way helps your agenda, you can put it like that. Like, oh, he's relieved there is a dream. Oh, he's relieved there is
Mm.
no dream, whatever. But
This, yeah, and this redeems him from what he did on Clubhouse that one time.
And that's facts.
Jesus, he claims it was a something. I don't know the word to use, but he took fake moaning sounds from the internet.
Really, like he, okay.
I'm gonna I'm gonna miss this show. I feel like this show could like I don't know. This show could have gone on for more seasons, right? Like, obviously, for obvious
Yeah.
reasons, we can't because these people are incredibly busy. But like, it's type of show that it didn't need to end. I'm sure after 4 seasons, like, it's not like a Succession has running to a final story point or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's talk about the legacy of Atlanta. What the legacy Atlanta leaves behind.
Maybe they'll pick it up, like
Oh,
actual Twin Peaks that came back 25 years later.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, this show could probably come back and like, we want to give you 6 episodes in 7 years time or whatever.
Yeah, even
the,
Donald
Futurama did.
Glover.
the Twin Peaks get cancelled initially, the initial run.
I have
Yeah,
no
like
idea.
it stopped and then they brought it back like over 2 decades later.
Yeah,
It
but
was
was it
kind of
stopping? Was
initially.
that cancellation or
Yeah,
was
Was
it
that
like just?
cancellation?
I'm not sure if it was a cancellation or not. I think in Futurama's case it might have been a cancellation, but they brought
Mm.
that one back too. So
Um, okay, let's talk about legacy of the show Atlanta. I mean, I didn't realize this until I did some research today, but Atlanta premiered a month before Insecure in
yes, it did.
2016.
It did, yeah.
I would have thought Insecure was like 3 years before Atlanta. Like
At
I
all.
did not think that they were the same fall. Um, well, so I think like obviously Insecure follows straight immediately after Atlanta, like I just said, but this should change so much about TV for me. And like
Mhm.
first of all, like you have non-white casts in prestige TV. Like let's not like obviously you had black led shows before, but they were not. One is because TV was not giving the kind of attention it was back then when Girlfriends was on or something like that or Living Single. But like um now you were talking about prestige TV, and then they were not just white male anti-heroes, they were like black people, Atlanta,
Mm.
Yeah.
Insecure, stuff like that. And I'm sure maybe there's a show that I can't remember, but like this was definitely the first show that I was like, oh, this is what TV can do. Like you don't
Prestige TV where
you don't
black
have to
people
be
are
you
in
don't
the
have to be a
forefront and the
drama.
focus is in their blackness. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be a drama, you don't have to be a comedy. You can literally be both in the same scene. Like
Mm.
Yeah, I
you
mean, Brian
can
Terry Henry has talked about how they didn't expect Atlanta to be received as a comedy. I think they just
that's interesting.
like they didn't expect it to be received. They just thought it would be stuff happening, people trying to make sense of that stuff. But then, like he says that in the end, you just actually have to laugh at the pain and the reality of certain things, because sometimes it's so real that it's kind of surreal. You're like, how are certain things actually happening? And the characters go through that, and because of that we end up going through it with them, even though it's clearly parallel universe. I mean, the one of the episodes that really clinched that
Or
idea
a
for me
dream.
was season 1, episode 5, where Justin Bieber shows up and he's black. Like, I could never have, I could never have predicted the kind of madness that was going to happen in that episode, and that just showed me that these people were not afraid. They were just doing whatever the heck they wanted,
TMT, are
and
those your
you know,
Elvis glasses? So not Elvis. Your what's
yeah.
his
What are you
name?
wearing?
What's this guy's
Sorry,
name?
Elton John.
I need this
Elton
to see.
John.
Can we focus on the podcast, please? I'm trying to
Yeah, okay, I
concentrate.
apologize.
I
But
see
no,
here.
I agree with you, and I also think like for me it was another thing that really when I say this is what TV can do that reached I was like I don't think I had seen a TV show that would just spend an entire episode following a character that like, was not important before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Master of None had this particular episode where they kind of followed different people in New York, and then that was the gimmick for the episode. There's a bit where they're following um a deaf woman and everything. That was really cool. But I was like, oh, this is a show that just like all of a sudden, Darius, who I thought was the funny sidekick, has his episode.
Hmm.
Like Van, who is the
Mm-hmm.
baby mama, has her episode. I was like, oh, I didn't know TV could do things like this before. And in terms of legacy, I think personally, I think you don't need to look too far, like to see the impact of Atlanta. Like you need to just all you need to do
Of
is
course.
check FX and Hulu. Just check those two
Yeah.
networks. You have Rami, you have Reservation Dogs, you have Dave, and I'm just like that. Those shows don't exist
Even
without
on
Atlanta.
Netflix, you have Mo, you have a bunch
No,
of
mhm.
English and Irish shows and all of that.
I
And all
think
of
I
that.
And
think
I think
Atlanta and
those shows
Insecure
don't.
coming together just inspired so and gave way for
Oh
so
yeah,
many things.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's a whole different podcast on its own. That's like the kind
Yeah,
of the emboldening of black creatives. It's
it's
like
a real movement.
telling them that we are profitable because that obviously happens 2016. Get Out
Hmm.
comes out 2015. So that's obviously helping
Um,
Jordan Peele on the movie side and all that to like, is it 2015?
I think it was
Yeah, I think it was
17.
2015. It was one of those areas. Sure.
Mm.
I'm
Anyway,
pretty
but my
sure it was
point is
20.
that
Yes,
all
around
around
that
close
time.
the same time. And then it's just like, oh, so that's a whole different podcast. And so, well, yeah, I was just like, oh, this is like, it's very, very easy to like, I don't think people have, lots of people that praise Reservation Dogs in season one, like the things they praise them for, the same things they praise Atlanta for. Like, not only the fact that they're obviously focusing on um people of color, like also Rami and Mo, but it's like they are very experimental in their storytelling. They can
Yeah,
give you a horror episode in one episode, and next episode is a fantasy episode, and next is a
they
drama.
take
It's just
real
like
risks.
Facts.
I did not know those were things that could happen on TV before, and I know it might sound a bit hyperbolic, but that's just the truth. Like TV was TV. You were either Breaking Bad or you were Veep, right? Like you were either Friends or you were Mad Men. Like you were something. You were that show and stuck to that. And Atlanta really came on, and I think it was
I
that
said
open.
we're not going to be anything. It's just going to be boxed. We're not going to be boxed in. I think that's
Yeah,
very
and
cool.
and obviously the popularity of the show shot its stars. Like all four of the stars are, if not movie stars, they are very well respected and well
They're
known
household names
actors. Yeah,
now. Every single one.
um, someone like Hero, who Atlanta was the first TV show, was the first narrative thing he ever directed. Like he done obviously his music
Yeah,
videos
he
for
he was doing
Love of
music
Childish
videos before.
Gambino.
Yeah,
He done the short film with I think, and then he's doing Atlanta. Now he's like one of the most sought after TV directors. He's doing Barry, he's doing Station 11, he's doing like, so he's like, yeah, Stephanie Robinson is, I think she's co-showrunner of What We Do in the Shadows. It's just like, you know, a show is good when everybody on just like the wave just takes up
everybody's
everyone.
doing well.
Everyone just goes, oh, yeah, just,
And
yeah.
Insecure did something similar too for its own
Hmm.
people. It's a very very nice thing to see. Um, I think the legacy is really something great in that way. I also like the fact that they didn't feel pressure to keep it going. They've
I mean,
it's not as
I
if
wish they
anybody was
did, but
pushing them
that's a
out.
different thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as if anybody was pushing them out, but I think you
Yeah.
can, as a TV show, you kind of want to stop at a point where you can give somewhat satisfying endings and have people wanting more, but understanding that where they've stopped is okay. You don't like overstaying your welcome is kind of becoming a lost is becoming like not overstaying your welcome is kind of becoming a lost art in a
We lost
sense.
out.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of
Hmm.
shows don't know that just because of like focus on profit and stuff, but obviously you have to balance profits with creativity and such. But I think they towed a fine line, and it really kind of worked for them. We really see the characters grow. We see them, learn about certain things. Even in terms of this whole legacy thing and what it's done with pop culture. I mean, we talked about the impact on, you know, the black community. We've talked about kind of how it's opened up doors for the people working on it. But I think there's certain impact on whiteness as a concept that Atlanta has had that is probably worth mentioning. Um, in season three, I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like there was a lot of this sentiment where black people were kind of becoming significant detractors for Donald Glover, saying that this show is actually kind of made for white people. Somebody was
Hmm.
like, there were people who were saying that the show was made to kind of appease them. There were people who were saying the show was made to indict them.
Yeah.
There are people who were
Hmm.
somewhere in the middle. I do think on some level, season three is kind of an interesting perspective that is kind of like the show is opening up its craziness to kind of a level that white people might be used to kind of exploring in a lot of TV that focuses more on their stories. It's kind of there's certain aspects of that craziness that comes in a way that is a little bit different from the language visually of seasons one and two. And on some level, I think that might be partly because they have money. Like there's certain problems that they have that
Mm,
in the original
that makes
seasons
sense.
that a lot of people of that might not be minorities just would not really be going through, especially in a place like Atlanta. We see the tour woes. We see when this socks is one of the most interesting things in this show
Hmm.
to me. But socks shows up, and then we see all the things
I
that
thought
that
about
come
him.
from that. We see like Amsterdam, all that stuff. Like I think, and then of course we can't forget Liam Neeson's cameo. like I remember like people really came for them on that. Some people really applauded it, but some people kind of came for them saying that like you're kind of giving this man a platform to kind of dumb down the genius of the show for people who might not have worked hard to appreciate or understand that genius otherwise, like if they
Hmm.
weren't black, things like that. I mean, all these different parts of the discourse that I found very interesting. So I think it kind of leaves that legacy, and obviously that's a good thing because the fact that it's able to kind of inspire such discussion means that it really did kind of make an impact. Because as much as we're talking about all the praise it's receiving and how that's going to continue to go down, there's also the aspect of the show's existence that sort of is embroiled in disagreement slash controversy slash debates about the culture and stuff like that. And it kind of brings up the the the, the secondary question of who is this show for. Like, if the primary question is what is this show about, the secondary question is who is this show for. And the question, and it can be for everybody, it can also be for nobody. I think it just depends on where people stand and how open their minds are, because the stuff that happens in the show is, well, not stuff that would really happen in our world.
Hmm.
Even something like the Darius's dream that we just saw, like we were all very worried about that scene when the police showed up for a for,
Yeah.
for a very specific reason, right? But Atlanta consistently presents us with situations where the black people in this show are going through some very dangerous things, and they kind of just laugh it off, or like they come off mostly unscathed in a way that they don't necessarily do in our own world. And I think that that opens up more that conversation that I'm referring to.
Yeah. I mean,
I
the
have a
show definitely not made
question.
for everybody.
I have a
James, what are
question
you gonna
for
say?
you guys.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just like this because I have a flu, and I didn't
I'm
realize
sorry. Do
that.
you remember?
Yeah.
First of all, anyone that's listening on podcast platforms, just go on our YouTube. Just watch the first 5 seconds and watch now and see the TMT time lapse. But do you remember in season 2 of Succession when they have the dinner? So it's Roman, Tabitha, Shiv, and Tom. And then Tom is
Yes.
wearing his scarf. And then Shiv's like,
Yes.
oh, Tom wants everyone to know that he has a cold. That's why he's wearing a scarf. That was what I just remembered when you were like, I'm dressed like this because I have a flu. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, I mean that was literally my reason. I was thinking about Tom
Hilarious.
literally when I did this, but I actually have a flu, and I was like, I should be dressing warmer. I live in Nigeria, by the way. What was I even going to? I was going to ask you guys
Hmm.
the entire cast of Atlanta. Which of their projects are you looking forward to the most?
Um,
Hmm. Interesting.
I don't. I guess it has to be Mr. and Mrs. Smith
Hmm.
because like I
Yeah.
don't know what else they are doing. Like I don't.
I think Zazie is doing
Is
another
she
Deadpool.
doing Joker too? What?
I think she's doing another Deadpool. I don't know if she's doing Joker too.
I don't know if she's doing. I
Brian
don't know.
Terry Henry has some interesting stuff coming up too, from what I've heard before the end of the year.
Bullet
He already
Trail.
has a movie
Too.
out with Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
Did you say Eternals too?
No, yeah, actually, Eternals too. I
Yeah.
didn't hate Eternals. It was boring as shit, but like,
I
so
didn't hate Eternals. But that's a
that's not the
different
worst
podcast.
crime a movie has committed.
Yeah, that's a different podcast. Yeah, I don't really like. Yeah, I don't really know what they're like, what they have coming. Like, but to follow up that point, that question, I'm excited for anything like they're gonna do because I think, I mean, like he hasn't sleepwalked through Atlanta. Definitely not.
Yeah.
He definitely he got to show a different side of him that we know. But like when you then see him on like Judas and Black Messiah, you're like, oh, you have talent running out of your out of
Yeah.
every part of your body.
Even in Get Out,
So
man.
I'm not. So he definitely. It's not as if he was like he wasn't phoning anything for Atlanta, but then you got like, oh, you can do Judas and Black Messiah, and you can be like the funny stoner dude.
Well, I mean,
Brian.
Lakeith he's got this project for Apple TV coming. It's called The Changeling. And the premise is a
Hmm.
man goes in search of his wife after she does something horrific in the aftermath of the birth of their first child. I'm imagining she killed the first child because what else could she do that was so horrific? Maybe
Jesus.
she became a Trump supporter after.
Actually, speaking of like even Apple TV Plus, like Brian Terry Henry, he's going to be on Causeway.
Yeah,
That's
it's
one of the
out
projects I
with
was talking
Jennifer
about.
Lawrence. Yeah,
Oh,
Causeway is
nice,
Yeah,
out.
nice, nice,
so
nice.
that one is out
He's
now,
really good
and
in that.
then
He has one scene that is just. But
Mm.
before we get to Brian, um,
Across
so
the
wait,
Spider Verse.
Likit, is he the man in that? Like
Yeah, he's the husband who goes on
who is
the.
directing it? Who wrote it? Does
Well, let me see. It is directed by and as I live and breathe, he's an executive producer as well on it. But it is directed by Melina Matsoukas.
oh, she was an
Oh,
insecure director,
yeah,
wasn't she?
Yeah,
Insecure
she was,
director and producer.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and
one of the bigger names in that
she
show.
directed Queen and Smith. In case you haven't heard of that,
Yes,
Oh
she
yeah, she
did.
did direct.
I love
She
that you guys
did.
went straight to Insecure.
I know.
And
Yeah,
she did a Nike
I know.
commercial, and then she did. Yeah, I mean, she did. She directed a video of Formation by Beyonce.
She does some
Oh.
interesting stuff for
Yeah,
sure.
Um, but I mean, yeah, I think Brian is the best actor in this, like in this group. I
I think he's the best for horror.
His range is mad
I
because
think he's one of
like I
my
said,
best actors
he's
living
playing two
right now.
people. He's
Hmm.
playing two people in this series throughout, and these two people that he's playing are going through two different character progressions, right? While being the same person. It's
Hmm.
mad,
And it's
and of
weird
course he's a
because
voice actor too. Like so,
Oh, actually, Spider Verse might be the
yeah, because
answer.
he's come. He yeah,
Spider
that's
Verse
what I'm
is the
saying. Like
answer.
that's what I'm hinting at. Like Across the Spider Verse is coming in
Yeah, no, because TMT's
2023.
question about what are you most looking forward to might actually be Spider Verse.
That's
Actually, out of
yeah.
their
So
project.
for me, it's probably that one really
yeah,
because
I
I
mean, it's
loved
funny
Into
because
the
if
Spider Verse.
when you think about T Henry's like actual his actual persona when he's in interviews and stuff, he's like a giddy,
Mm-hmm.
excited child, and then he plays Paperboy, who plays Al, who is this stoic, sort of angry old man, and he does it so well. I legit thought that was his personality, and I haven't felt that way since I was a child with actors. You
Um,
know,
but yeah, no, Brian is probably one of my best. It's definitely my best actor in this cast. I think he's good. I tweeted recently about how I think he's like. This is partly because he doesn't get enough good roles, but he's also someone that just has been able to distill. Like whenever I think of him, I think of scenes. Like I
mm,
think of. I don't know if you've seen If Bill Street Could Talk. I think of the scene there. I think of the scene in Widows with Viola Davis. I think of there's a scene in Causeway by the bench. It's incredible. Like he just manages to like put an entire movie's worth of emotional journey into one scene, and he's just always so good. Like
Very salient
he had
moments.
one scene in If Bill Street Could Talk, and people were saying he should be nominated for an Oscar. Like just with one scene. Like I'm not saying he had one good scene. He was literally in the movie for one scene. Like and so yeah, and obviously Donald Glover, I am a fan of him as a
mm.
creative. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'll be there, and but yeah, and I think like Keith is good. I think Zessie is good. So anyway, I think that might be a good point to wrap up. We didn't talk much about Van this episode, but that was my fault. That was mostly because I felt like if we start talking about Doctor Mr. Chocolate, that was a whole tour episode talking about Mr. Chocolate and Tyler Perry. So I was like, let me just skip
Yeah,
that for this one.
I do
Um,
think it was cool of them to do that episode though.
I don't know if Tyler Perry thinks so as well, but he has
That's
millions.
why I
He has
think it's
billions.
cool.
It's fine.
He has like
He
Tyler
has
is a
billions.
billionaire now. I think
Yeah,
you should be
it's
open to
fine.
certain like criticisms, or you should expect it. But it's funny of all the things they could come for in this world, or to add to the list of things that they come for.
Yeah,
It's funny to me that Tyler Perry was put on that list.
anyway, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry, but when they poured the grits on him and he said grits have no effect on me, I passed out. That is insane
Meanwhile, he's
writing.
and then after that he's like, "Yo, I've lost a lot of blood. Can
What
you
was he?
get me?"
What was he playing again? That Bill Gates, was it Bill Gates that made it for him? No, it wasn't
Yeah,
Bill
like
Gates. It
it wasn't Bill Gates. It
was
was
the Apple was Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh my
Keanu
god.
or the
Oh
something
god.
that I can't remember. Keep anyway, whatever. Guys,
uh, yeah, it's
TMT
Keanu.
everybody, thank you very much for coming on. TMT will be back, like I said, later this week. It will be back sometime soon, definitely.
At some
But yeah,
point.
yeah. Judge Judy has got up from her chair, and she may or may not be thick. Hashtag thick Judge Judy. Hashtag
Ha-
TJJ.
Hashtag Judy with the fruity.
Jesus. So that
You
means
just
it's
come up with
time
that
to get
yourself.
out of here. That's our exit cue. Thank you everybody for coming on. And yes, guys, please join us next week when we'll be joined by Oscar winner Daniel Kaluuya. Bye, guys.
Say hi to Daniel for me. Bye.
I will, of course, always. He asked about you.
Still owes me money, but all right.